I'm Abby. I'm filling in for Cody tonight.
Hi, Abby. I'm Steve.
Nice to meet you.
Hey, friend, how are you?
Hey, guys.
Good to see ya.
Good to see you.
Hi.
Hey, how you
How are
doing?
you?
Abby.
Abby, we've
Yeah, it's-
touched base. I'm Justin, so. Yeah,
I'm Cody tonight, so.
thank you.
Go easy on you.
Yeah, please.
I was like, you've shaved since I last. saw
Yeah, probably a little shaving.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's like hard to. Didn't do much.
you. Yeah, I know. I was kind of bearded there for a little while. And I'm like, okay.
You did have that beard going, huh?
Shaving. Yeah, the winter coat. Yeah. I like this. So Miguel, have you is your role has kind of changed a little bit with the police department, right?
Right,
Like,
yeah.
is that able? Are you able to talk about that now?
Yeah, I was gonna talk about that.
Oh.
Last meeting, but I know we went kind of along on the SRC, but yeah, happy to provide an update on that.
Right.
And then I think I'm gonna join the SRC board actually.
Oh,
So
excellent.
that all kind of panned out. I went and met and saw it, and yeah, I think it's gonna be a good fit. So
Yeah.
excited about that too.
Well, and that's great because we had talked about, because I met with, is it Chris
Yeah.
and Counselor DeMott,
Okay.
and talked about like really how we could succinctly align some of the work that we're doing, support their work, and
Absolutely.
yeah, no, it was good. And then, thinking about ways in which the city can help support their volunteer efforts, I think those, because they don't have necessarily the structures, especially as they start like, they're losing so much funding, uh, to do background checks and things like that. So that was one thing. But then we were talking about doing a block party, which would be
Okay.
fun. So we'll talk more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds like great news. And then so that'll be a little bit closer contact in that organization.
That's great. Yeah, and I think it will really reiterate that like ambassador model we talked about as well.
Yeah. So
Hi,
here he
Rich.
is.
Hello.
Rich. You open these lines.
Hey. Well, thank you for being here tonight.
Oh, you're welcome. It's my pleasure.
Okay.
I visited all the boards. I mean, it's been a lot. It was 2019, I think, when I visited all the boards.
Yeah.
So it's good to be back.
Yeah. Well, happy to have you.
I'll get this view at the house.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, it is. It's beautiful.
Are you on vacation or?
At a conference, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm. Do we know what the Wi-Fi is?
Spring 2024,
Spring 2024.
all lowercase.
No, Seth and Doug will be here.
You mentioned that being here, right?
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Counselor DeMott's going to be late.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, about 30 minutes late, I think. Start.
Jillian says she can't hear anybody.
Oh.
I don't think we're muted. Rich, can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe.
Julian's mic is off. Maybe her speaker is off.
there's someone in the lobby of the WebEx or the Teams.
I think I got everybody down.
Hi, Megan.
Abby,
Hi, Alan, how are you?
old.
I
And you're young.
am not that young.
I don't know. Steve, is she young? My standards.
I'll hang out with you guys more often.
Yeah.
Hi, Rich. Is Dave expected here or is he gonna be online since looks like in the agenda?
He'll
Take
be,
him on.
he'll be late.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like your friend Seth.
Oh, subscribing.
Yeah. It won't be nearly as good, but
A good thing you'll have a recording
yeah, exactly.
as a backup.
Exactly right. Let's see. There we go. Okay. Transfer this over and we'll get going. I think we've got core.
Okay, Jillian's gonna log off and log back on.
Okay, we can wait.
I think Michelle also said she was gonna be late, but she will be online.
Okay, great. Thank you. We'll give Jillian just a minute to get back on. Go ahead and start. You do? I think so. What's Jillian?
Sorry if I smell musty.
I think you're fine. I don't smell you at all. So.
Feel today? Yeah. Just across the street where people are being moved again. But they're also getting harassed and attacked by just other citizens, yelling and throwing things down on them, and they're trying to find a place to put a tent. The cops won't. If this in the spring, I don't have proof of this, but I just experienced, it's like all the policing, whether it's the Rangers or the sheriff's department or the police, everybody starts moving the homeless. But it's like, where are you going to go? Where you go to North Glen? North Glen's going to send people to Westminster. Going to Denver. Denver's sending them out here. Just cut it out. I'm hoping maybe the strategic plan will bring some of this to fruition.
I was gonna ask if the tiny house tour ever occurred. Is that?
Did you do that?
No,
Oh,
I wondered if it hadn't.
So we are not at quorum without Jillian.
Okay.
So
we don't count. Can't the two of us count as one?
you do count.
Oh,
Yeah,
for a
'cause-
quorum?
Yeah, because
Well,
you're
in the absence of two.
you're alternate. So
Ah,
yeah, so right now we have Seth is out, Doug is out, so you're filling in for those two. And
okay.
then Miguel, myself, Rich, and then Megan, that's 6. So we need a 7th,
Seven.
and then we're good to go. So I mean, I guess what we could do is we could open the meeting and just kind of make it informational, but we can't vote on minutes. We can't do any of those things.
Yeah.
Wait a few more minutes to see.
Okay.
So excuse me for not saying hi.
Oh, no, it's okay. Hello. Just
Yeah, I said hello and you were just like,
letting you get your.
in your,
I
I did.
haven't gotten out of the zone there and then trying to respond to somebody.
well, let's make that zone out there, the zone in here and see what we can do. Hopefully. We can get some action.
I'm trying to turn some of this over to city council, and hopefully if they can get a majority, things might happen, but I'm still working on just a safe outdoor space kind of a thing where people are telling me, we just need to have a place to put our stuff and stay.
Since of affordable housing.
You know, even with their own tents, like, can we set up like, even in a parking lot, can we just, or we're not being moved all the time. It's a lot of stress on this one woman.
Yeah.
I mean, she's like really intelligent. She's got, I forget, she's got a computer science degree, but her world fell apart. And
She's on the street.
she's on the street now.
So did you or the other people involved in homeless coalition look at potential sites? Propose them?
You know, the county, I've
Counties?
been staying in contact with city council. I even sent something to all of city council to ask what hasn't happened is going out and really speaking, sitting down and talking with the people who are out there. Crickets, nothing. I thought I did have Nancy and Dave 2 years ago, I think it was. That long ago, April, go out to 2 sites. Nancy would not engage. Dave, I had to urge him on. I know Opie went out with me and met somebody. Claire knows intimately one couple. They live in an RV. They're working poor.
Mhm.
And Amber Hott has gone out with me to visit just to see what's out there to observe.
Right.
So
Abby, correct me if I'm wrong, but in the absence of a quorum, then we can call the meeting to order, but then we'd have to adjourn and push it into the space to where we do have quorum per Robert's law, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so we either reschedule the meeting for a time in which we can, or we have to wait. for a
Yeah.
month. And we've got a lot of urgent business to deal with.
are we one person short?
If you can hold off till 6:30, Michelle might be
Hmm.
here.
Yeah.
Let me make sure that that is really.
Yeah, I mean, can we email Jillian or?
Actually, I had just sent something to her on
To Jill.
something else, not Jillian, to Michelle.
And Donna, I don't know if Donna's coming
Yeah,
No, she didn't.
up here. Let's see if I got it.
we have phone numbers on somewhere in the agenda, don't we?
I thought so.
Still trying to do something like this. I can only show it to you because otherwise it's a meeting.
Numbers in the back of it or something.
We need this.
Yeah, they used to be for sure. I mean, yes.
We tried to talk about it at the last meeting. And I don't know why it didn't go anywhere. But
I
anyway,
probably have some phone numbers, but I don't know if they're accurate. Just because we keep the ones from when you apply.
Okay.
Mine's still the same. People are hanging on to their phone numbers because they're connected to their mobiles.
and it's just something to go off of.
You have one
Starting
from
point.
Donna?
Yeah,
Good.
I used to do this. I mean, that's what I always did when I was in charge of a group that I would come in and say, this is it. If we reject everything, that's fine, but we have to have something to begin the conversation.
What do you got to do with it?
Yeah, they're both the same. Scary.
Here we go.
Waiting in the lobby, they said. Oh, should I run down?
Yay, all right.
Elaine, can you hear us now?
Anyway, so hopefully,
We need you for a quorum.
I have returned.
Hey, good to hear you. Okay. All right. So with the fact that we do have a quorum, let's officially call this meeting to order. I'm just going to make a note of the time at 6:18. Thank you all for your patience. Welcome. It is good to see you. So just kind of moving through the agenda with old business, we'll go right into old business. Reviewing and improving previous meeting minutes is up first on the agenda.
I move approval.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, we have a move and second. Any discussion? Hearing no call for discussion, all in favor of approving the meeting minutes from last month? Okay, Jillian, yeah,
Aye.
Megan, thank you. Okay. Looks like we had complete consensus, so I don't think there's anyone else to actually abstain or deny, so we'll move on. Thank you all. talking a little bit about a couple of things, Senior Resources Center support. So obviously at the last meeting, Chris from Senior Resources Center had come and gave us some information that I thought was super valuable. It seemed like the board thought as well. And I know Miguel has some additional information about maybe what we can share. I did want to note that Counselor Demont and myself and Cody met with Chris, I think it was a week or two ago. And we talked about a couple of options around how the city could support. As you know, we were hopeful because they did have some additional funding that was possibly moving through the state again, but they were trying to get the bill that had been killed in committee back off of the ground and moving forward. But again, I think it was halted or delayed. So we were hopeful that that was going to be some funding from the state that was going to come back around. It didn't. So I believe Chris said that there, and then I'm throwing out an approximate number here, around $1 million funding for, an organization where, they're pretty maxed to the limit. So we talked about ways in which we could help support and try to figure out, like, as a board, what we might be able to do. This sort of aligns to the ambassador aspect that I know we need to talk about. It's one of our goals tonight, is to really talk and reframe what it is that we want our board to look like. How do we want the ambassador idea to move forward? We'll talk about that later. That being said, I'll open it up to Miguel because Miguel is going to potentially join that board, correct? Do you want to share?
I applied to join the board, SRC. I went, talked to Chris, saw the campus, saw the mission, and it just continued to feel like a compelling opportunity to see where I could help out and bring some consulting knowledge, some problem solving knowledge, some critical thinking, maybe some fresh perspectives to that team, and see, right? It's they're gonna have to do more with less, and try to get past that funding gap for sure. But I think there's a path to that, and there's some creative ideas already brewing in the organization. So if I join, I'll definitely be a conduit, to helping bring ideas back and forth from this board, see if we can kind of get some synergies going. So
great.
So this is great.
Yeah, that is exciting. And thank you for reaching out and doing that. That's amazing. One of the things that I had mentioned to Chris that we, I know Mayor Pro Tem, when he comes in, he can talk to this as well, but we had talked about, what can we do? That's what I asked. What, as an inclusivity board, what is it that you need help with that we can, I said, we're a recommendation board, and we also want to be active in causes that allow our community to grow and expand in a healthy and diverse and connective, inclusive way, obviously. So we had talked about the big challenge, and he had alluded to this the last time he was here. He had alluded to the neighborly approach that their organization is trying to take, in which, he would really support, it seems, in outreaching to allow our persons who are aging in our communities to be known and to have access, and to have people come and connect with them and try to figure out to make them feel welcome and valued, and not, sort of minimized or marginalized. And so one of the things that I said that I would bring to this board is the possibility, or, we talked about, what if we tried to do almost like a little pilot of, and again, Mayor Pro Tem can speak a little bit more to this, but what if we tried to do a pilot and worked with Parks and Recreations around choosing a neighborhood where there'd be a need, and creating a small little block party community with the focus that we could go door to door, and that, those of us who are able could go door to door, welcome them, and then do a block party where maybe we provide food and just some things, and say, hey, these are your neighbors, and these are the services that maybe we provide or that we need. And, and it was sort of a concept. One of the things that I said I'd bring back is if people would be willing to meet with Chris, in a planning phase, so that we'd look at maybe late summer, early fall, when the weather is pretty nice and not completely hot or completely uncomfortable. That was kind of the idea that we were thinking. But that was one idea that he felt like it seemed to resonate with him around what we could do actively with, our feet on the ground, so to speak, in a grassroots way. And that was the biggest thing for us. I mean, there were a lot of things, and I'll share those notes with everyone after this meeting, but wanted to just kind of put that out there, that that was one thing that he seemed like could be a real value add for his organization on behalf of what they do. So,
Yeah, I think the idea of bringing the access to those adult kind of care, daycare, day programs to more of the communities, as opposed to having to expect the transportation to be there and all those resources to be there to send them to that facility. So I think that was something that he was wanting to explore, is having these more like pop-up or remote areas around. They weren't like so permanent, but could like have the logistics to have like some like snacks, have activities. I mean, the key thing is it's not just for those that are in that community. It's also their caretakers, to give them a break, to give them a moment to feel that, you know, that the person they care for is safe, you know, at this function or at this event, and maybe they have a couple hours to go run an errand or do something like that. So it's definitely something I think we could build on, and then maybe find more people that could utilize that service, you know, here in our city.
yeah, Miguel, and thank you for bringing that up, because a lot of it did come around to the persons who were affected by the caregiving, not just the person receiving the care. And I got schooled a little bit on some language orientation around, they never used the term loved one.
Yeah. Okay.
Because when you're in a caregiving situation, you may not always love the person that's caring for you, and or they may not love you. It might be an obligatory thing. It may be something. And so I felt like that was powerful. And what Chris also talked to me about was maybe even coming to the board and doing some training and orientation around some of those more language specific points around how we could be more inclusive and more thoughtful and sensitive in maybe some of that context, which I thought was super powerful. I would have never thought of that. And I usually try to think about language quite a bit. And it was just something that I was like, wow, that's an interesting context. I've never, you know, had that.
He was willing to come back, is that?
Yeah, it seemed like he would be willing to, you know, especially if they establish sort of a partnership of where, hi, friend. If they establish a partnership of
Street outreach today, and the last few weeks I've encountered 60+ people out there. Today I only
sounds
encountered
like you.
Yeah.
I was like, Alan, you're talking.
What did I say?
Yeah,
sheltered. I know that the
one moment,
navigators
1 second.
technical.
getting
Another meeting.
motel vouchers out there. And some of the people were trying to
We're hearing your inner monologue right now.
phone so they could get in contact with the navigators.
Thank you for that update, Mia. Yeah, I don't have anything to share that I know, but thank you. So,
Somebody playing the recording?
those of you that came on a little bit.
Okay, I think
It's maybe
for
Donna.
some reason it's Donna.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, all right. Hopefully, Donna, you can hear us.
And I muted everybody. I don't know if they
Yeah.
can unmute themselves.
Michelle, you can hear us. We'll just kind of see if we can. Okay, so we're okay. Thank you. Thank you for the patience and technical difficulty. Welcome those of you that came on. We're glad you're here. But one of the things that we talked about is we talked about getting some of that maybe more inclusive training specific to that context if we were going to build that partnership out. And I felt like it may be a good opportunity to present to this board, because in our early itineration of the board, we would go out and do more like, you know, public facing events and connecting with the city, connecting with, you know, members and trying to get feedback. So this could be an opportunity for us to kind of get back to our roots in that way, if that's something that this board would be interested in doing. So.
Do you need a motion?
I mean, I think what the standing piece was is if there would be a potential recommendation, it would be to create a group of interested people within our committee to start working with Chris directly on realizing some of the possibility in partnership.
So subcommittee.
Yeah,
Yeah.
essentially.
Committee.
So,
Call it a senior outreach subcommittee.
sure, yeah, we could call it whatever you want. I just can't make
To
the motion.
explore,
Yeah,
just so to explore.
And welcome to you, Counselor Ireland.
It's
Counselor, we're very
and I don't know.
to have you here. And if you have anything you'd like to, no worries. If you have anything you'd like to share, please put it in the chat. And
It's definitely Donna.
it's a different,
Do you
it's,
have the meeting open on your
I
laptop?
know.
Maybe we can open it there and just mute her. If you can log in on it.
yeah.
Well,
Because
that's what I just did on the thing over there, but I guess I could.
It kind of gives you a little bit more control, right? Because you can just do one person.
Appreciate the opportunity to chat with you all.
She's playing the.
Thank you so much for all the information you provided to me and back and forth. I really appreciate that.
Hi, Donna. Yes, I see your hand.
So.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you for sure. We're also,
A feedback.
And our.
Yeah, can you rejoin? Can we have you come back?
Rejoin,
Yeah, that'd be great.
leave and come back.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
For those of you.
yeah, let's try that, Donna, please. Thank
I
you.
seem to have trouble with this frequently. I'll leave and I'll come back.
And
Okay.
Thank you. Okay.
Maybe that.
Um, Yeah, thank you for your patience. Sometimes the hybrid piece is a little bit of a challenge. So yes, so that would be where it would stand. We will obviously won't do anything or have any further discussion unless you make a motion to move forward.
Okay, now it's a motion. I move that the Inclusivity Board set up a senior outreach subcommittee.
partner with Jefferson Center for Mental Health to help them. And because we know that if those folks.
Just mute her again.
And that's Chris talking.
The last meeting.
Yeah.
She's playing, somehow she hit that link. There was a link in the
Yeah,
Yes.
it must be the,
Jake's email.
All right, so motion to create the senior outreach subcommittee.
Second.
Okay, so it's been seconded. Is there any further discussion?
I would like to know what that would entail. You know, as a subcommittee to, what are we investigating specifics, or does the committee just meet with Chris and narrow it down?
Bring back
I
a.
think it's the idea though, too, like it's the potential of doing a Westminster pop-up. So I think that's where this might go, right? Is like,
Oh.
how could we do not a whole day, but like a half day pop-up? Maybe and like what, like how would we like do the outreach first? How would we set that up? And then potentially have a half day or something to start off, right? And try to get people from the community to come, and then maybe see if that grows. And maybe it's not like obviously a monthly thing right away, but maybe it's like twice a year we do a pop-up, or quarterly we try to do a pop-up and see where it goes. Because I just think that the transportation issues aren't going to solve themselves. That community just can't jump in their car, you know? So it's like, you know, potentially could you sort of come to them by having something a little closer, and maybe even get new seniors that are not even aware of the SRC, like kind of tapped into the idea, and then that becomes an opportunity for their caregivers or people that are, you know, care for them to like maybe take a little bit of time away to go run an errand or do something personal or get some fresh air, you know, just like sort of a break type thing. So I think that's where this might like end up going, but it would just be like sort of probably planning and seeing it at like at the MAC, or like where would something be that would sort of make sense to do something.
Explore the pop-up concept for late
I
summer.
think that's where we would go, yeah, because they've done pop-ups before, so you know maybe it's like we're involved in kind of seeing if we can try that model on here in this community.
For instance, in historic Westminster, the south part of the city, I know there are some of the churches down there pretty much it's all people 70s, 80s and up. They're just, the younger generation isn't there. And one, I think that was Westminster Methodist, they could no longer sustain. So, and the community is quote unquote elderly. I'm there. I will be there next week. I'll be officially elderly, or in a few weeks. So I think we can find the groups of people. I think Donna had mentioned her community. I'm not sure exactly where that's located. It's a senior community, correct, Donna? You're mute.
Want that to be.
I am
available,
still getting
especially, but
feedback,
it's
so
just
I'm hearing two
the fact of what
voices
we're
and
looking-
I've been
so
in and
we're
out a
seeing
couple
more
times. What do I need to do?
Donna,
presentation,
is
and
it possible you clicked on the link and you're playing the recording from last month?
Yeah.
That's what we're hearing.
Well,
organizations are getting-
Jillian put in the chat that she's having the
Well,
same issue.
should I go out totally? I left and then I came back in, but I'm still getting
And we're seeing
something.
a switch in a lot of
Maybe
them,
reboot your computer altogether and then come back.
they want to fund and what they don't want to fund. And
It's like Jillian's
That was the
having a problem
minutes.
too, yeah.
Yeah, so
Maybe it's a
uh,
technology.
Teams issue. Mayor Pro Tem Demott, welcome. Glad to see you.
Howdy.
Yeah, we were just talking, we just motioned and seconded the motion that Steve put on the table is exploring a senior outreach team that could work with SRC to maybe realize some of the thinking. We had talked a little bit just to get you in the loop because you were at that meeting with Chris and myself and Cody around doing what Miguel is referring to as the pop-up in the neighborhood, right? Where we go out and we do the neighborly piece and we try to do some outreach, and maybe we could sponsor that as an inclusivity board as one idea. We talked a little bit about the focus of caregivers. So that's kind of where we were. We were just framing some of the discussion. Was there anything you'd like to add from that perspective or from your thoughts and discussion?
No, I mean, you kind of hit it on the head. The only thing I would add is I did bring that conversation back to council on Monday, and I let them know that I wanted to talk about it as part of strategic planning. So kind of doubled down on I can't ever remember the name of it, but the mobility thing that we used to fund that we didn't anymore. I know that's on a couple people's lists to reevaluate whether or not that was the right move. But we should at least have the conversation because I don't think it was never a desire not to figure out a way to help seniors who need that mobility piece. It didn't, from staff's perspective, we weren't getting our value out of it. So, I look forward to that conversation. And then I brought up a lot of the ideas around and let them know I wanted staff to look into what it would look like for us to have some sort of volunteer thing as a city, liability around it, vetting the people who would participate, because that was a concern that Chris from Senior Resource brought up. And then I also brought up what he had brought up around the language, because I thought that was pretty interesting. I never really thought about, even though I was on that board, they never had dug into like the example he gave of calling people loved ones and how that might not be well received on one side or the other. So I look forward to that being part of the conversation on Saturday for strategic planning, and kind of let them know, because there's a handful of us that are passionate on the issue on the council. So
Thank you. Okay. All right. Any further points of discussion? All right. Hearing none, all in favor of creating a senior outreach subcommittee that would work with SRC to realize maybe some potential partnership?
Yeah.
Okay, I see Rich's hand, Michelle, Megan, Jillian. Okay. Is there anyone opposed? In case I can't see someone. Does anyone choose to abstain? Okay, so moved. Thank you very much. Moving on to Arts Week, and Arts Week, a quick update. Has anyone seen the advertisements for Arts Week? Like, it's starting to come through. Obviously, the turnaround time has been relatively tight. They did their last Arts Week in October. We didn't get a real chance to talk, but the city has decided to align Arts Week with some of the efforts of North Metro Arts Alliance and Westminster Public Schools because they were doing kind of this arts piece. And so they're collaborating with that. And I believe like over 30 other business partners to realize this really, I think, more fleshed out or well-rounded Arts Week experience that celebrates and explores the arts. So what I would just say to you all is, one, I do know that Kate was at some point looking for some volunteers, particularly on that April 27th. I plan to be there. I'll be kind of floating around. But there will be 3 shuttles that will be basically flowing routes all through like the district of they're going to historic Westminster and I believe, downtown Westminster, and they're going to be shuttling all around, and there will be arts experiences from the Alamo to the Aura Art Gallery to Westminster High School, and just continual free shuttles that will go around in this sort of designated loop. I can send you all that information and we can just kind of talk through. It keeps on getting updated, so I didn't want to send already an outdated version. But we've been talking about that. And if anyone is interested, I know, Rich, we had talked, we didn't get a chance to circle back, but you and I or anyone that is interested in like doing some artistic perspective or looking it over, because I did say that this group would be interested in making sure that, we're offering inclusive and diverse experiences that are reflective of our city. I knew that would be a priority. I do believe that Kate has been pretty good with trying to fill those things out. Abby, I don't know how close you are with some of that, but I know we've got a dance group of Indigenous persons that are going to be like represented. I know we have possibly mariachi pieces. We have a lot of different things that are kind of, did you have anything you could share on that?
I don't.
I don't know if you had a lot, but there are quite a bit of opportunities. So I can send that out and you can look it over. And then just, I guess, if you have any questions or thoughts, I do believe that because of the tight turnaround, maybe we didn't get as involved as we could have been in years past. What we've done is we've maybe been one of the groups that help our city explore just diverse performance opportunities. And, that's something that maybe if we're interested in that, we could look at again, or diverse visual arts opportunities, whatever that might be. I know. Oh, go ahead.
Donna, are you there?
Anna,
There she is.
we see
I
you.
think I am now without the
Okay,
voice.
Good job.
Okay.
good.
Great.
Yeah. You're not hearing 4 voices coming at you all at once. Good. We were just updating on the Arts Week, Donna, around just what's coming up, and we're trying to be reflective of the community. I'll send the most recent information out. I'll make sure that I have that, and then if anyone has feedback, you can provide it.
Maybe let her know we voted on
Thank you.
sort of things.
Yeah. Donna, we did vote to move forward in your absence, since you had to leave and come back. We did vote to move forward on creating a senior outreach subcommittee that works with Chris. So, and then as we start moving into our brainstorming and our work, we can even identify some of the members who are interested in that later on. So,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you. I apologize. I don't know what was going on.
No, it's okay.
Teams.
Counselor Demott, did you have anything you wanted to add about Arts Week or anything? Because I know you hear it from a different perspective.
Nope, I think you got it pretty good.
Okay, awesome.
Yep. I would love to be involved in that from the inception next year.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, this year I've had a death in the family, and I'm going to be gone that entire week.
Okay. Sorry to hear that, Rich. But yes, we'll definitely open it up for opportunities to figure out how we can all be included in whatever way you'd like. So, yeah. Okay. Questions on that? Okay. All right, Counselor Demott, it is your turn for a city council report update.
I kind of hit on the most important thing coming up, which is the strategic planning. we I guess the other thing I would mention, that if you didn't listen to the meeting on Monday, we did do the initial approval of one of the first, well, the first affordable housing stock in the uplands, and so that was passed for first reading on Monday. So that was part of the whole approach with uplands, is that it's supposed to be very well balanced. And I know there was a lot of desire from this council, previous council, and probably the one before that, to make sure that there was a good component of affordable units that were going to be built. So aside from that, we're just preparing for strategic planning, like I said, is the biggest thing. So I appreciate all the feedback that you guys have given me to date that I've shared with council, and plan on bringing that forward. So but aside from that, happy to answer any questions if anybody has any.
So, I think part of our night, because there were people that wanted to do presentations on like expanding I-270 or whatnot. Or 270, and it was all well and good, but what we needed to do, it felt like, was we needed to ground ourselves a little bit in the work that we needed to like think how we're going to specifically align to the strategic, mission of the city and the strategic planning of the city. And so one of the big points of our focus this evening is, what do we do? There had been some expressed concern and express interest in how do we really actively engage? What do we do beyond, within the who we are as a recommendation and advisory board, but what do we do to really focus some of our energy, some of our efforts? I know we have a lot of passions and a lot of causes that we want to champion here in this group. Anything from, social justice and fair policing practices, which has been a big point for, us, and Miguel has been really doing that work, to displaced persons and families, which I know Alan has been, hitting that work, to all of the amazing, just efforts that you're all trying to lead out, from education points to policy points and all of the things. So right now, what this really is a more informal session of brainstorming ideas, and Michelle, not putting you on the spot, but coming back to a long, conceptualized piece of what does that ambassador program look like that we talked about years ago, before, the world went a little bit strange for all of us. But bringing that back and really focusing on like, how can we do those things? Understanding that we can't take everything on. I think that we've also seen that we can't do everything, because it doesn't make us as effective either. So, and Dave, maybe as we're talking through some of these things, you could maybe think about, because I know you're pretty oriented with where you feel the strategic planning will go. That maybe you could say, oh, that would be something that we know the city would be actively like, supportive of, or, I know this council would be really interested in looking at that. Or if there's something that says, well, the city hasn't really put that on their, agenda yet. Is it something that we could do to support that cause or whatnot? So just moving those things forward. So with everyone's kind of consent, I'd just like to have kind of an open-ended discussion about where we would see. Michelle, I don't know if you want to revisit kind of what your original concept of the ambassador program was, if that's something that you just want to conceptualize.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
But,
And the thing is that it's kind of taken on, it's evolved after some of the conversations that we've had recently, just because some of the things that Cody's brought back to us in terms of limitations, restrictions, things that are already that the city's already doing. So I actually gave this some thought since our last meeting, and really all it is just trying to really be to see the city be a little bit more proactive, I guess you could say, and reaching out to neighborhoods, to groups of people that already have, in some senses, internal communications. So we talked a little bit about HOAs. HOAs are plentiful. We have quite a few in our city. They all have their own internal communications. I don't know whether or not the city, it didn't seem to me in all the conversations we were having that the city is taking advantage of that opportunity as much. It's a great opportunity to connect with HOA boards, to see if they'd be willing to let the city funnel information to their residents. You could likewise do the same with apartment managers or management companies, just to let folks know that, there are services they have access to, things that the city is working on, opportunities that they have to maybe join in the conversation on things that are being developed at the city level. I know Nextdoor is being used as a communications platform. I personally don't use Nextdoor as much anymore as I used to, now that they've gotten really heavy with advertising. But I still feel like it's an underused platform, though. I did kind of go on there recently just to sort of check in to see how often the city is using it as a communications platform. It doesn't seem to be, I don't know, it doesn't feel like it's being used as much as it probably could. And I just feel like these are just missed opportunities to get the word out. And really what it is for me, the ambassador program is just making sure that people hear about things is really, it goes a long way towards joining people. They feel like they're part of something if they hear about something, right? It's kind of like, if you hear about the party after the fact, and it was something that you might have been interested in joining, and you don't hear about it, it makes you feel a little less included, right? So, and it may not be that everything that the city does or everything that the city wants to share information wise is going to be well received by everybody. It's not gonna, but at least letting folks know that they are important, that they're in that communications pipeline. I think that's part of the issue. At least personally, I feel like that's part of the issue in the city of not feeling sort of a sense of greater community. And I think it would help with like participation levels, both in terms of events as well as on the civic front. I think if more people felt included in what's going on in the city, they might be more apt to do something like the Civics Academy, or possibly join, who knows, maybe even watch a council meeting once in a while. I know that that's a lofty goal, but maybe happen. But I think really the whole point of my thing is just making sure that people are hearing about what the city is doing and feeling included, and that they matter and that they have a voice.
So Michelle, as you talk, just to sort of conceptualize the ambassador piece, it's really getting out to where people are, similar to what we've been talking about with the pop-up for Senior Resource Center, and making sure that we have a vibrant presence as a city, but also what could the Inclusivity Board do to help that aspect, right? Like if you're passionate about a certain thing or a certain area or a certain neighborhood, you could almost, because I hear you talk about neighborhoods, is it that maybe we become sort of neighborhood ambassadors and we figure out how we could do some of those things, right? Like as opposed to program ambassadors, which, we were always I felt like we were always tripping on each other's feet a little bit because we're so intertwined, but maybe it is something like that neighborhood ambassadorship. Right.
And the other thing too is if you have, a couple or a handful of people for each quote neighborhood, could be an HOA, could be an apartment complex,
Sure.
it could be even a non-HOA neighborhood, but utilizing folks that are, I forget what they call them. I think they call them like reporting team members for Nextdoor, and they're grouped by neighborhood. So these are people that are pre-vetted, and they're ones that will take, if like a post is reported, they'll be the ones that will determine whether or not it's something that meets the standards and criteria. So those are folks that are already they're already involved, they're on the platform a lot. And in some cases, they're people that I know. But I think, well, anyway, but yes, I'm going to let you go back to, because I can go off on a tangent here, and I don't want to go off on a tangent. But yeah.
Yes, brilliant. Please.
So, it's basically, these are folks that could then also have connection with staff. These are folks that could help staff sort of cater a lot of the communications towards that particular type of neighborhood. Not all neighborhoods are the same. We have a very diverse city. We've got a lot of different places that people live. And we have affluent places, we have not so affluent places. The types of communications and the types of information that they would want to receive might be different. And I feel like it's a good way to do sort of almost a two-way communication and to help the city really streamline communications between groups.
Thank you. Yes, Jillian, sorry about that.
No worries. I was just going to say that things like I found out about the Westminster pothole palooza because it was in my water bill when I got it. And I was like, oh, this is great. I've got one near my house that I've had to stop my husband from drawing a crude outline around it to try and get attention to it. I'm like, there's a legal way to tell people we want this taken care of now. But things like that. It is very broad though. And so I was just wondering, like we recently had city teams near our neighborhood clearing the Quail Creek irrigation canal, I think is what it's called, that runs near our neighborhood. And they were very non-intrusive, like they were in and out, they did a great job, but they cut down a lot of trees along the way. And I know a lot of people were like, why'd they take those trees down? And I'm like, I work from home, so I'm out in the day. I'm like, hey, why are these trees getting cut down? And I got told, but I had no idea it was happening before the fact. Nobody else in my neighborhood knew about it. So like it took some time for word to get around, like these trees were taken out because they were causing problems with the integrity of the irrigation canal. But a bunch of people woke up and were like, oh, those beautiful trees that I love looking at are gone. And I don't know why. So I don't know if I'm assuming the city has like a database of, if you live in Westminster, you have an address, you probably have a name, you probably have an email and or a phone number associated with that. When utilities are working in the area, I get a text, I get an email, I get something saying, hey, Excel is going to be working in your area and you might experience interruption of service. I don't know that I've gotten notifications from the city of Westminster that, hey, we're going to be working in your area and we're going to be filling potholes, we're going to be cutting trees down, we're going to be repairing playground equipment. Knowing about that and maybe having a chance to have some input before it happens would be great as someone who lives in a neighborhood. I don't know how feasible that is because I'm sure the operations are larger and farther reaching than I'm aware of in my one neighborhood. But things like that, like I appreciated the pothole palooza because it's like, oh, I can do something about this. This is great. And then contrasting it immediately with these trees got cut down. People were sad. They're beautiful trees. We miss them. And we didn't know it was happening. So we didn't have a chance to say anything about it. That kind of sucked.
Okay. Yeah.
I guess one thing I would add to this discussion is, it seemed to me one of the goals of the strategic plan last year was to conduct quite a robust outreach effort to neighborhood organizations and HOAs. I don't know what the result of that was, or if it occurred, or if it got struck from the plan for some reason or another, but that might inform this whole ambassador discussion as well.
You'd have to get back with we'd have to actually ask staff like what's happened, but I will share with you a couple things. I would say the operations are pretty massive, and I don't know who all the time who decides what gets pushed out and what doesn't, because I'll tell you, if you heard everything they did, you probably would feel differently about how often you heard from us. And I think that there's some mindfulness around not over communicating. I certainly in my time have been part of 4 councils now who communication has always been like, we need more, we need more, we need more. And I wouldn't stop saying that because I do think it's important, but I will say, you know, over time in 6 years, sometimes you understand the complexity around it. Around the HOAs, I think one of the difficult things that is always just like any organization, you know, we can push that down to the HOAs, and then sometimes it stops at the contact that the city has for the HOA. So if you don't have like a HOA who is really good at engaging their HOA members, or and this is an unfortunate thing is, and this is a lot like council, sometimes HOAs, they hear from people when there's a problem. And that's not necessarily good, bad, or indifferent, but you know, sometimes that is just the reality of those kind of positions, be it an elected council person, state rep, federal. You know, when people don't have a concern, we're not top of mind, which is, you know, is fine, but it just adds to the problem. So I'm not saying that to say that this isn't the right discussion. It's just a difficult nut to crack. And I guess more than anything, I wanted you guys to understand that there certainly has been efforts to try to increase that with the HOAs in the city in my tenure. You know, I have to imagine that was prior to that too. Some of the HOAs are more active than others. You know, but typically when I hear, hey, I'm such and such from an HOA, it's because they're upset about something going on in their neighborhood, which isn't what we always want, you know. And so I know in the last couple of years we've asked, you know, invite us to your HOA meetings, and I know some of the council members have been able to participate in some of those. So I like the idea, though. I don't know if you know, if the city has resources to necessarily go to those meetings, but if we could get a schedule together where, you know, if they were open to allowing visitors to come in, you know, that might be a way to address that. So, all that just to say, I wanted to at least give some color to what I did know about what we've done with the HOAs and, you know, some difficulties around it.
Thank you.
It's a challenge.
Mhm.
Yeah, I just want to chime in on, I guess, a different angle. I kind of see the ambassadorship being, and I hear like spreading the word and getting the word out and talking to HOAs. I kind of think part of inclusivity board is maybe what I've always thought it was, is like trying to tap into those communities that are underserved, right? So the homeowners, I mean, homeowners association is great, but I don't know if everywhere in the sort of community, you know, communities that have need are homeowners, right? Is the first thing that comes to my mind. In the past, you know, we've kind of also had these sort of pop-up situations where we need to be involved, right? Like it's like there's something we need to respond to, there's a recommendation. So I think we have to leave ourselves available to do those things. But I definitely think from the ambassadorship perspective is that I kind of foresee the members of this board connecting to those valuable pieces that extend beyond even council, and being able to have that like sort of speed on your speed dial, you know, like we can get to chief of police quickly and other components of police. You know, some of the work Alan's doing, reaching out to the unhoused, you know, where are those other pockets, you know, like I know for a while there we were talking about food deserts and stuff like that. So I kind of think it's, in my mind, I guess, more on the maybe those communities that aren't as represented in Westminster than the majority, and being sort of the voice or a resource, or someone that's a group that has people that have tentacles out there sort of trying to help out. I guess that's always been what I thought sort of the core model was for this board, but you know, that might have just been my perspective. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
And I align myself exactly with what you're saying, that I would like to, when we talk about inclusivity, because I think one of the very first things I said a year or so ago when I first came on this board, for example, I did not even realize, for example, apparently in the northern part of the city, the Sikh community seems to be there. I was totally unaware because here I am in my bubble of central Westminster around 104th and Sheridan. And I see what I see here, not traveling up there. And it wasn't until I saw the youth group that it's like, wow. So a lot of these kids are from up north, from one of the high schools up there. Did not even know we had a high school up there in that area. So it's youth meeting here today, aren't they? Downstairs? Yeah.
Yeah, they are. They
We
are
need to have
downstairs with the
them.
mayor right
We need to
now.
meet with them.
Right, see what their issues.
I want to know, yes, what the youth are saying.
The youth advisor.
But absolutely, Miguel, I think it's really good to reach out to the various communities because we are so diverse in this city.
Exactly to your point, Miguel. I mean, when I worked at, a school not far from here, before I worked at the high school, the reason I went to this board is because parents who did not speak English they were afraid to come here. They were afraid to go to city functions because they were not documented and they did not want any authority, but they had valuable things to say. So, we had a position to where, kind of similar to you. And I'll always add that, I want to be very conscientious. I will never be someone's voice, but I will support their voice and I will take something to the table, because, as a privileged person, it's not my place to, speak for someone else, but I will certainly support that voice. And HOAs could be a delivery system to Michelle's point of, some organizations, but we've got to go to where the people are that need us. I've always thought that. And that's one of the things that I think we've carried through, at least initially with the ambassadorship, is that was kind of the spirit of, places of worship, places of non-worship, neighborhoods, playgrounds, whatever it is where people are gathering that we need to go. And then the people that are gathering, like to your point, an HOA, not always, but is often considered persons who do have home ownership and do have vested interest. And with rising housing costs, a lot of our community members are not that, What about the house that has 4 families in it because they can't afford anything else and they're just struggling to make ends meet, So I concur with you as well in that regard.
Yeah, and maybe you connect those HOAs and find people in those communities that want to help address, the people that may be underserved or in need. But yeah, it's so tough. I think it's the hardest part is what do we hang our hats on, right? And but I also feel like being able to go out individually where we can. I know not everyone has different schedules or priorities, but building those networks outside of this group so that if there is the need to come and address something that was shocking to the community, we have those relationships already built so that that's easier for us to make an influence. I guess I just don't see our influence just being the council. I just don't. It's great that they're informed and it's great that there's some things that they can do, but you guys can't do it. Dave, you guys can't do everything, you're not some sort of wizards of Westminster and have ability to do just anything, So I think it's just the idea that there's other conduits, there's other paths that may be beyond just, a recommendation to the council.
I think I agree 100% with what you're saying, Miguel. And this is something that I certainly harp on, and I know some of the other council members do. That is why our boards and commissions are so important to us, because there is no way that we could do all the things that council needs to get done. And so we do rely heavily on our boards and commissions to do different things. And so the fact that you guys have been tasked with that is because we know that we can't. Just like you said, we can't be all things in all places. This is, and most of us have day jobs on top of this. And so, for example, this is my third meeting back to back to back for the last 4 hours after I got about an hour off. So, the other thing that I would say that I think you're right on about is one of the challenges that we actually often bring up is isn't necessarily just the HOA is not being responsive. It's actually, yeah, we have about, I think the number that was cited on Monday was about 66% of the city is in an HOA. That leaves a very large amount of places that aren't an HOA. And how do you reach those people? And if any of you followed me for a long time, one of the things that I did right before I actually got elected was I was the director of a group called Neighbors for Countryside. Neighbors for Countryside was kind of served as an HOA because they didn't have one. And so Countryside is like 2,900 homes. If you, most people lump Walnut Grove or Creek into it. And they, so, you know, that group sprung up because they wanted to make sure that the neighborhood was cared for. And it actually kind of happened during the Great Recession because when the houses all started being unoccupied, homeowners in the neighborhood wanted to make sure their home values were protected. So they started taking it on themselves to go mow lawns and pull weeds in houses that were abandoned and things like that. So, you know, and you know, that was a way that actually that group was pretty influential in the area. At, you know, when during that time under the leadership that was started from it. So, and the other thing I think you're right on about is we do have a ton of apartments, and so how do you reach out to the folks that aren't, you know, that are in apartments and not necessarily homeowners, or even we have a lot of rental property in the city as well. So, you know, folks that maybe for whatever reason can't breach into home ownership. And a lot of those, I would say also a lot of those rentals are actually in those kind of non-HOA areas. Countryside is a great example of that. So, and I don't know the right way to crack it, but I certainly think there's opportunity for you guys to um, maybe look outside of where the city events are or close to them and do, you know, kind of maybe your own pop-ups outside of those times when you know things are coming up that you could want to share to those communities is an idea. I mean, I certainly don't want to tell you how to do it, but just some thought, because certainly I think that Miguel's right. We need your help to get into those areas with whatever you think is relevant that maybe folks aren't hearing about. There are a lot of great programs that when you talk about like undocumented and things of that nature, there are programs that we've put in place since I've been on council that help folks make sure they're not being victimized. And like good examples like the legal services that we have. And I've had multiple times where people have come and complained about land, uh, you know, the people owning their buildings and that aren't taking care of what they're supposed to take care of. That program came out of that. And so a lot of times people don't know about those programs. I think there's a place on the website. I'm trying to think of what I think it's the Westie Live Better has a lot of this information on it. But those are other examples of where maybe you could go into parts of the community where people are skeptical of government and officials and be able to share those kind of programs. I think those are great opportunities for you guys.
Mhm.
Which is why I think when Michelle was talking originally about the ambassador program, one of the things that is mentioned is 2 citizen representatives for each identified neighborhood or complex. And I think using the term conduit again, I think we should be the conduit. We gather some of this information, and that's where we offer to, one part is to offer to city council, but the other is that we are actually being the ones who are creating the outreach to find out from the communities what they want to know. And I think it was perfect that when you brought up about undocumented, because I encounter people all the time. And there's a fear. And when I deal with the homeless, there's a fear. When they're being harassed, physically attacked, they do not go to the police because the police, there are some officers that are understanding, but you don't go to somebody who is also forcing you to move all the time. So but I think it's specifically, it is that outreach that we could be doing.
I would raise one other challenge that we currently have, and I know Clerk Fitch could speak very well to this. We are having a very hard time lately getting people to apply to even serve on boards and commissions. We had more spots than we had applicants this last time. For one, that doesn't give us a lot of option. I mean, not that I don't want everybody in the city to be able to serve, but it used to be that we could be picky about putting people certain places and really looking at their strengths. At this point, it's like we've got more people than we do spots. Where are their strengths? Let's throw them in. And we used to have a waiting list. And so as we think about things that may expand it, I certainly would ask you to brainstorm how we get more people to get engaged again. I don't know if it's just purely burnout on government. I don't know if it's just people's lives are so busy with, the way the economy is. I know a lot of people are working multiple jobs. I mean, I think it's probably a litany of different things, but I wouldn't feel fair if I didn't at least raise that as a challenge with what you're saying, because it certainly is a challenge that council has, trying to make sure that we have enough people to serve on boards and commissions, especially the ones that are quasi judicial, that legally we have to make sure they operate in order for the city's business to get done.
Would it help to connect? The city has a dedicated person in charge of volunteers.
Mm-hmm.
Would it help to speak with them about that?
I think it'd be a great opportunity to have her come in and speak with this group and talk about what she does, what maybe some of her challenges, because a lot of what she does isn't necessarily boards and commissions. It's a lot of the other things like snowbusters and like cleanup and there's just a lot of different opportunities, but I think that's makes a lot of sense in my mind. If Abby could maybe make a note to reach out to her and see if she could connect her with Justin to get her on your guys' agenda.
So I forgot her name.
Martha Hines.
That's Martha Hines. Okay.
The city benefits this. If you were at the meeting on Monday, the city benefits greatly from our volunteerism. So I also want to be sure that I am giving credit to that, because we have a lot of people who do serve in a variety of things outside of the boards and commissions that that council commissions. I think this last year the number was very close to $1 million worth of basic free labor that the city gets. That's a huge amount of workforce that we as taxpayers benefit from other taxpayers deciding that they're going to spend their free time doing work for free.
I think it could even start with us, like potentially getting out in some of these areas that are underserved and stuff, and see if we could even get people to come as guests to this board, right? And kind of see what goes on, and they might be like, wow, this exists. And then that could be a way into like saying, okay, go apply and see if there's a good fit for another board that you're interested. Or I know we're not looking actively to recruit this one, but people can come or watch the recordings and kind of hear the conversations, and it could spark could motivate somebody potentially. You just never know.
What if we had our meetings out in the community? What if we went to these local organizations? I understand logistically it might be easy, but why don't we go to Donna's, like center and have a meeting and invite like residents who live in Donna's space to come and join us? Why don't we go to, Southern Westminster, which continues to have a food, and figure out a place to where we can bring them together, or go to local schools or whatnot? Why don't we even have our meetings at these spaces? Why?
I think you could. We may want to check with the city attorney. I think honestly, the fact that we post these to be listened to isn't necessarily a requirement. I think the requirement is more around posting. Here's when the meeting is, where it's at, and that there's enough notice for it. Clerk Fitch could speak more to that than I could, but council certainly has meetings from time to time that aren't recorded. But it's more around the posting of it. There could be security concerns from staff, but I think it's an interesting idea.
I do have to say that
No.
Clerk Cat, if you cannot record the meeting, if you take any actions, you have to have minutes. That's part of the open meetings law.
Okay.
Pretty good on that.
Yeah, so even like Mac or something, right? Even like a facility, dispensary facility somewhere like in those communities. So it's a great idea potentially. But
And I know for a fact every neighborhood pretty much has a school. We could hit every neighborhood school and I could work with facilities tomorrow and get that done. So yeah, well, right. But those are just things that maybe we could look at.
and it could be more like we're coming into your community here with what you need to feel more included in the city of Westminster. It could even be something as simple as that. Like, tell us what you need to feel more like you live here and you're included and your voice is heard. And that could definitely spawn some sort of like voice of the customer, spawn some ideas that we could like focus on or channel up to council. That's great.
Even host some world cafes.
Yeah.
We could. I mean, we could change the business structure of our meetings to where it's more like just let's hear your feedback. We could have our business, we could do our business pieces, but as opposed to, spending the half hour, 45 minutes with someone presenting to us, which can be valuable. How invaluable would it be to listen directly to our community members so that we can better serve them?
Yeah.
Right.
So how do we make that happen?
So, well, that could be one thing that we look at doing. Like because I think it would be in my mind, identifying sites, identifying neighborhoods, identifying, because a lot of us have connections. So how would we do that? Do we want to roll naturally with like the Mac Center, with maybe some of the schools? Like where would the, locations be that we would feel we would need to prioritize? And I think to Miguel's earlier point, we'd want to go to neighborhoods that maybe feel like they're removed, even geographically, from city center, and I mean, Southern Westminster, for example, we continually go back to that, right? So,
and there are, for example, tomorrow, Thursday, and then the second Thursday, at Westminster Presbyterian Church for those 2 Thursdays in a row, they have community dinners. And by community, it means community. So it brings everybody in. I don't know if those are opportunities because the community is there. Well, we could do something like that. I don't know how many groups are doing that. Usually it's going to be a faith-based.
Just work.
So if everyone feels okay with that, one thing I could do is I could talk to Cody once she returns, because she'll give us a little bit more specifics, maybe around how we can navigate what we can do. I think to Abby's point, we've always been good about recording minutes, so that's, I don't think, an issue. Just making sure to, Counselor's point that, we're making security, everyone is like in the structure of, I'm not talking physical, I'm just talking about making sure that we're running the meetings in a way that are transparent and open. And how more transparent can you be when you're just sitting in the neighborhood with the people? I think it could be a great opportunity.
Yeah. Could we do a targeted mailer? I mean, I don't know. I know that all costs, but like what resources could be available to maybe like if we identify a specific location or area, like would we just want to block flyers or would we want to like do a targeted mailing? I don't know if those are options, or targeted emailing. I mean, I don't know.
I would suggest maybe, and this is, sorry, Abby, I'm making all sorts of work for Abby, who's just a visitor tonight. Sorry, Abby. You probably could just ask how you could latch on to some of the city communications, emails, and if they have publications that come out, they do a couple a year. I don't remember how many. I think they do them quarterly. So maybe the communications team could provide some opportunities that you guys could be able to advertise on. Because I mean, there is and Michelle had wrote that's a good start on a database as far as the volunteer list. I do think that the volunteer group, they are probably some of the most well educated in the city, because we do have that group, that list, and so they get most of the communications about what's going on in the city do go to that list. So but that would be a good opportunity to at least ask the communications team what you might be able to hop onto, because mail's expensive. So I doubt we probably have budget to have you just do your own ad hoc, but I certainly don't see why you wouldn't be able to piggyback onto what we already do.
yeah, social media post. I mean,
Mhm.
whatever. You know?
Well, and Counselor, are our meetings listed in like the Westminster activity booklets that go out in the fall, and our meetings are listed?
I don't think that they are.
Because
Yeah, I didn't.
if
Wherever they're noticed.
that could be another opportunity, to your point, that, you know, we wouldn't be doing a mailer, but we could easily have like a blurb that says Inclusivity Board will be in your neighborhood on whatever, you know, day type.
Well, I think that's probably a good opportunity, Abby, just in general to educate about all our boards and commissions. Maybe that could help in our applicant pool also.
I
So
think so.
Okay, I see Michelle and then Jillian. Michelle, thank you.
Yep. So I just, I just want to be careful that we're not asking a lot of staff, because like Cody, for example, this is not her first job. So like if we do want to go out and about into the neighborhoods, I just want to make sure that it's us doing that organizing, rather than putting it, coming up with a great idea that has a lot of moving parts and it requires a lot of work, that it's us that does it, not them. That's all I want to say, just because I do want to be mindful. I mean, these folks, they work really hard.
Yeah.
So I want to be kind.
Yeah, point well taken. I think this has to be us. And I think, you know, from like figuring out what neighborhoods we want to prioritize at this point and try to figure that rotation, I think that comes from us. And then, you know, like I said, I'm happy to do the groundwork with, you know, one or two other people about figuring out space and location to where we could have the meetings. And then I just work with maybe Cody and or the staff that we'd be working with to ensure that we could be recorded or whatever technology piece we would need. So yeah, I think that's a point well made, Michelle. Thanks for that reminder. So yeah.
Cody thanks you too, even though she doesn't know.
Yes. Yeah, right. Jillian, please.
Sorry, I lost my mic button for a second there. No, I was going to point out that, yeah, when it comes to like reaching out to the community and trying to get them information or invite them to give us feedback, there doesn't seem to be any one way that doesn't miss a large subsection of the population. Like if we're trying to get everybody that lives in Westminster, it's a big ask. And yes, things are on the website, but what if you don't have a computer? What if you don't have internet access? What if the meeting is being held somewhere and there's no childcare, or there's no bathrooms, or it's not handicap accessible? What if it's at 2:00 on a Tuesday and you have work? Like those are those are always things. And then I was just laughing when you were asking about the booklet of Westminster activities that goes out, because I don't get that. I get the one for Broomfield. I have a Westminster address, but I get the Broomfield activity booklet. And it's so frustrating because I've asked Broomfield to stop sending it to me, because every time I show up, I'm like, I have to pay the non-resident rate. Can I stop getting this, please? And they say, yes, ma'am. And then next month it shows up, or 3 months later, however often I get it. So yeah, like getting things in the mail, that obviously costs money, but it seems like a good way to make sure you're getting people who actually live in Westminster. I don't know how, like text messages, I get text messages for all kinds of stuff. I get text messages for things that are happening in Alabama because I have a cell phone number and cell phones move a lot more easily than information does, it seems. So, but I just had the thought of like, I'm trying to think of any place that would be public, that is either a place people have to go to spend money or a place that is not asking you to spend money. So like, I hear all kinds of languages at the playground. I go to the playground with my daughter and I hear Chinese, I hear Hmong, I hear Sanskrit occasionally. And I want to try and chat with the people there, but I can't talk with them. And I was just thinking of how like everyone who's played an RPG or a video game, like you get to a new area, what do? You find the town square and you look at the city board, or you find the tavern and you talk to the barkeep. There's a place where you can go where you don't have to spend money, that has the information of like what's going on. And I'm trying to think of the physical representations that we have for that in Westminster. I think maybe I see a board like that at the library, which we ask a lot of the libraries. I don't want to ask even more of them. But places like dog parks, places like playgrounds, places like grocery stores. Is there a way, like that would obviously cost money too to set it up if it doesn't already exist, but could that be a way to put out information and be like, hey, if you need help with language, if you need help with services, or if you want to know what's going on in your community, you can come here and you see it when you're going somewhere you're already going to be. So you don't have to take time out of your evening when you're trying to put the kids down or make dinner, or in the middle of the day where you're working, or let's be honest, on a weekend when you don't want to be doing anything else.
No, good point. Thank you, Michelle. You chatted. You put it something. I'm sorry, I missed what you'd said.
She said, have we considered using using a resident portal app or using the water app in a way to send city information to homeowners, for example?
Yeah, like on homeowner programs and things along those lines, because we do have the water app, and I know that that's like kind of a very basic payment portal. But is there a way to expand that into it becoming something of an information channel for some people? And I know that would be exclusive to homeowners, but at the same time, it would be another opportunity.
They do use it for that. Earlier in the meeting, it was pointed out that the pothole palooza was on there, so they do try to utilize that avenue.
What's funny though is I have the app and I never got a notification or anything from it.
Well, on those, and I don't know how they would do like a push notification, because on like even for your like leak thing, there's rules around like saying. So I guess they would have to look in to like if we wanted to use it for push notification, that might be something different. And I don't know if the app is tooled for that. That'd be a staff question.
Right. But since everybody gets water from the city of Westminster, you have, that is probably the biggest, most accurate database of residents that we have at our fingertips at this time.
Potentially, I would potentially,
because it
but that's
gets updated
also
when
that's
people
also
move.
somewhere people have to go. So I don't like that. We just want to also be mindful that some people don't want to hear from the from the city. So it would have to be some sort of opt-in, I would imagine, but it's worth looking at for sure.
It's just it's a low-hanging fruit moment.
Yeah, no, thanks, Michelle. Alan, and then I think we probably need to honor time and just come with some closing, maybe next steps. So
I was just going to ask, and Abby or Dave, I would love to have your input on this. The city does so many other proclamations, and we will see proclamations from various group members. Is that a place where we can find the person who has accepted the proclamation? I remember seeing the Hmong, for example. I think you had one for Jewish Americans here. There must be people, whoever received that, do we have the information on that? Because that would be a representative of that community that we could reach out to, that could lead us. Is that
I
legal
don't.
to do?
That's a Abby question. All the proclamations go through her office, so I don't know if they keep record. Like I know ones that come to me, I know who accepts it, and like roughly I know some of them. But there's some of those ones that you mentioned, I'm not really sure necessarily how, because like even say if it's something for the Jewish community, there could have been multiple organizations in the Jewish community we reached out to, and maybe one or two showed up. So I don't know if the clerk's office keeps a record of that.
I would say not an easy record. They most of them come through email in some form or fashion. The other thing too is I don't know how comfortable I would be releasing names just because I don't know. Honestly, it's my email is public record, but I don't know that people think about that when they're sending in a proclamation. So my first reaction would be not to release things.
Okay. That's what I was just looking for, another way to get to individual communities.
It's not a bad idea. And like, I mean, the public record, I mean, we do see people accepting proclamations, so it isn't like we couldn't figure that out. You know?
Yes, yeah. And Michelle said, would you be willing to send them a message from us? And Michelle, yeah, I think that that would not be difficult to do. You know, that is, if there's some sort of canned response I can send out, that's not, I think that we can accomplish that.
And we could follow up on Dave's recommendation and make it an opt-in.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yes.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to honor our time. One of the things I think that came out, and thank you for the great thinking, with everyone's kind of okay, I'll meet with Cody sooner rather than later when she returns. We'll sit down and talk about the logistics. And then once I have that meeting, then we can open up the conversation about how do we want to prioritize, and maybe a small group of us can get together, or we could just do this via email, but we can prioritize what neighborhoods, what areas do we feel we'd like to do this? When do we want to start it? Do we want to start it as soon as May? In getting out into neighborhoods and figuring it out, or do we want to just have maybe another one of these sessions here so we could really plan things out, but we can move forward with that? And I think also another one of these brainstorming sessions about this is good, this is the beginning of an outreach. That being said, I do want Miguel to update. He's leading a little bit of a different role with the city police department, and I definitely want to hear about that because that was a passion area for us.
Yeah, I'll keep it short. So I was on the Chiefs Advisory Board for a while, and then approached for an opportunity to do IA reviews, which are internal investigation reviews that the city police does. So I have an opportunity to look at those case by case and provide, obviously not from the Inclusivity Board, but from my perspective as a citizen's feedback on, officers' involvement in these various situations. So I think it's a great opportunity to be able to provide that alternative perspective to them, the outside view. And it's been busy. It's been probably 1 to 2 cases a month. So there's been a lot of going to the station and reviewing those, reviewing body camera footage and all that stuff. So I can't talk about it too extensively, but it's definitely something hopefully that's making an impact over there.
I love that you're doing that.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I'm, knowing you and knowing your passion for social justice, and just your compassion, but also your, I think your just approach to things, I think will be a great benefit to them. So, and to our community. So thank you for that. Okay, so I will reach out to Cody. We will talk about next steps. You can expect an email from me as soon as that happens. Does that feel like a good first step, at least initially, as we talk about these things? I'm going to go through, I kind of put all of these minutes sort of by person as you were talking. I'd go back and add to your record. So it's a little bit different than Seth's much better way of taking minutes, but at least it will get some of the concepts there. So please just look at your information. And if you feel that I missed something as I was trying to facilitate, which is very possible, feel free to have me amend it before we push it forward to the next meeting. Okay.
And can we formally invite Martha Hines?
Yes,
Yes, I have that on my.
Yeah, we've got that on the tube. Okay. All right, friends. Thank you so much for your energy and time. Note that it is, it looks like 7:37. So we will officially adjourn. Thank you.
And I just want to remind folks, before everybody jumps off, Saturday is the City Council Strategic Planning Meeting. It is open to the public. It's going to be in City Hall downstairs in the all-purpose room, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct, Abby?
It is correct. And if you can't make it in person, it is also being streamed.
Perfect. I might be there in person. So if anybody wants to join me.
Tempted.
Bye all.
Thank you.
Okay,
Bye, thank you.
Have a great evening.
You too. Thank you very much. This just so I don't.
What time is that?
I don't give you the
Probably
wrong
like 10.
information. I think it's 8.
Oh, early start.
Actually, let me look at the agenda because we put 8 o'clock so people will be on time. I don't know that that's when we really start.
And Justin, that was perfect.
Coffee and donuts.
Communities, schools.
I mean, we could.
I didn't even It's like,
I go to the swim and fitness center,
Yeah.
incredibly diverse people. There's already a coffee clutch there. And now that it's being rehabbed, you could actually meet in the new
Yeah.
area there and say, hey, guys, what's your concerns?
Yeah.
Very diverse. So,
It does convene at 8, but it doesn't look like they have arrival between 8 and 8:15, and then kind of an overview from 8:15 to 8:30. So they'll start getting into the meat at 8:30. And it's scheduled till 4.
oh, boy.
So
It's lots of strategy.
Yeah, it's a
Well,
little plate of strategery.
coffee and donuts and.
Yeah, even if we could just plug in and for an hour or two, it'd be
Yeah.
useful.
I absolutely, yet again, with my clerk hat on, I encourage you to go to any council meeting you can make it to, and the strategic planning is always an interesting one,
Yeah.
because that is where we get our direction as a city for the next, at least next year.
Right.
Yeah, I know I'm working Saturday morning for training, but I might pop in if it's on stream. I may just pop in for that afternoon.
Absolutely.
A little bit.
And I do say that, and I am not actually attending in person. So.
Yeah.
Electronic.
Yes, so, but yes, I highly encourage, it's always good to know what's.
Abby, thank you for being here. Thank you for your time and for filling in. So
Yeah,
I
thanks
think
for letting me be here.
just a quick thought around like.
Good to see you.
Go
Yeah, good to see you too.
Especially if we go into the south side of Westminster.
sure.
We may need to see if we could get some help, like